Thanks for everybody for joining today. Today's Accelatis Essentials class is setting up SLAs. The Essentials series is 15-minute long sessions with a focus on a specific subject. We will be recording the webinar so that you can go back at any point and take a look at it, and even if you can't attend, you can jump back to the website, and I believe we're updating these series on a weekly basis, so you can always go there. We're going to try to keep it within 15 minutes for everybody's time's sake. So today's class, what are SLAs? SLA actually stands for a service level agreement, and traditionally it's been a term that's used with internet service providers where they're going to guarantee you a certain amount of service, and this is sort of the idea that we have with our SLA module. We're looking at a couple of things, in particular delivery speed, how quick are the users getting the content that EPM is delivering, and then is there any cause for an alarm if the content takes over a certain amount of time? In other words, you know, if things are running normally, if a certain form or a certain grid takes, you know, an inordinate amount of time, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, is that something that you should be alerted of? And on those same lines of the SLAs on a one, you know, form, one grid view, we step back and we also track consistency of the delivery so that over time, you know, what's the percentage of time that you're delivering those forms or those grids in that time frame, and should there be an alert sent if that SLA is not met? So in other words, we've got a couple of different metrics as opposed to, you know, is the form being delivered? Here we're saying, you know, is it being delivered quickly? You know, is there something slowing it down? How many times have you heard the user base say that, you know, things are running really slow today, right? So this is sort of a net for that, and for you as an administrator to be able to track those sort of things inside of Accelatis. So the things that can be monitored are anything that Accelatis captures with the unified activity filter. So we have that process running, which captures either, you know, Smart View, HFM, planning. You can see the list of things, and I'm sure you're all very familiar with the user activity that we do capture. So any of those things that you can see in the activity analysis screen that we capture as user activity can be monitored with the SLA module. You can also add ported activity as long as it has a duration, right, like a planning calc launch or certain HFM consolidations. And the reason why it needs that duration is because really the SLAs are set up to trigger on the time. If it takes longer than this, you know, then all those gears start to turn. So just keep that in mind. Anything that you can see in the user activity can be added as an SLA. There's a couple of gotchas to think about when you're using the SLA module. And again, only items that are in the Accelatis database under user activity will be displayed when setting up new SLAs. I'm going to go ahead and show you that in my sandbox environment. I'm also going to fix that typo that I just saw. Another thing to think about when making changes to existing SLA definitions, you have to save before exiting. There is no catch thing that says, hey, you made a change. Are you sure you want to exit? The SLA module actually will just exit, so just wanted to put that out there. Make sure you save any changes before you exit the module. We also have a spot that figures out daily averages, right? Like I said, over time, you know, what percentage of the time are we meeting those SLAs? So the daily average is figured out every 24 hours, and that is based on the service startup. So in case you're really particular about, you know, what 24-hour period of time you want to capture for that number, just know that once you start the agent, let's say you start the agent at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, 24 hours later, the system will calculate that daily average. You could change that logic by automating a little task on the command console called process SLA data. So if you really wanted to change the way that behaves and said, you know, I want this to be calculated at 6 o'clock in the morning for whatever reason, you can do that. Probably a little more involved than what we want to get into for this Essentials class. So let me just go and get to the demonstration of the UI. Let me pull up my sandbox. And I've already got my screen open, and I just want to highlight the SLA screen real quick. You can get to it by clicking the top here. a little SLA module. Once you click on that, you see the module come up. The controls at the top are very similar to many of the other controls. You can refresh the list of SLAs here, add an SLA, delete an SLA. As long as it's got a check mark, it'll delete it. You can configure an SLA here. The save changes, again, if you make changes to an existing SLA, make sure you click that save button before you exit the module. I can export my list of SLAs into a comma-separated file, which you can open with Excel from here. And then we have filters as well. Depending on how many you have, if you've only got a couple of SLAs, it's not a big deal. But we do have the filter option here. You can create your own filters. Just by doing this sort of thing, you can see how it certainly makes viewing this very easy. And I'll show you the filters really quick. You know, you can create a new filter. So if I want to add these 3 things, I put a check mark next to it, come here, create new filter, I'll call it Chuck, you know, and once I save the filter, now I can use it, right? So in this way we can kind of keep track of the SLAs and what we're doing. If we wanted to add a new SLA, I'm going to go ahead and click on the add. You'll notice the list on the left. Okay, and we've got it broken down pretty much by plugin or by module, but it should make sense to you. And if you drill into it, you'll see that you get more and more detail under forms. I haven't really done much. What you'll see in this list is what we've captured with activity, the unit filter. This is just looking in the database and building this tree. So keep in mind, if you don't see something here, let's say you want to set an SLA on some HFM form and you come in here and you say, hey, it's not here, it could be because we just haven't seen it yet. So if you were to just open that form, you know, and just do a little refresh here, and then go back in, when it builds it, it'll now have your form in there. So you can pick a specific form or a specific thing, like maybe a logon, right? And you pick the thing that you're looking for and you just move it over to the right-hand side, and then you would click OK. I think I might have added that one already, but there we go. So once you click OK, now it's in this window, and you've got some default values here. I could either click on the little configure selected, or what I usually do is just double click it. Double clicking will open up that same window. And from here you can see by default I've got my SLA is alert enabled. So this means that it's not only going to track the timing for this, but if one of these times is not met, it's going to go ahead and fire off an alert based on the severity I pick. And as you saw in that first slide, I have 2 settings. This first setting is going to be on a per use basis. So every time this form is opened and we see, hey, some user has opened this form, it's going to check this definition, right? So I could give it a trigger value for any, say it's above 5 seconds. So if it takes more than 5 seconds to run this form, I want to launch some severity. Let's just say it's the severity 1 that I care about. I could also launch an automation at the same time. Again, there's other classes on that, but I can do all those things, and I can tell it, you know what, I don't care if it happens 1 time, but you know, if it happens 2 times in a row, or if it happens 3 times in a row, then I want to know. So you can get fairly specific with your criteria. So again, this section is every time the form's open, it's going to be subject to these rules. If you look on the right-hand side, this is where that daily threshold is set, and a minimum percentage, right? So if you have some number in here, let's just say this form, you have it set up for, you know, it should open quicker than 5 seconds, but if it's above 5 seconds, launch this. This is saying what percent of the time is this form launching quicker than 5 seconds, right? So if this never triggers, then your SLA threshold for the daily threshold is going to be 100% because it never failed, right? If this form opened 5 times in a day and 2 of those times took faster than 5 seconds, if you've got this set for 80%, the next time it does that daily calculation, it's going to launch this trigger here, and it's going to give you some alert to say, hey, you know, we didn't hit it, something happened. Same thing, you can launch a flow on that trigger, but just know that this value right here, again, daily levels, and this is over time. You really want to see if your form is opening, you know, quickly as you need it to anyway. So this is where you would set those things up. And again, these numbers are really, it's up to you to figure out what works for you. If this is something that you work into your corporate plan as far as, you know, how much time you can, or you know, how often you can deliver this content from EPM to your end users, you know, this is a good tool to get that metric. So once you set all of the things that you want, go ahead and click the Save button, and now you are tracking all of these things. Now, above and beyond the alerting of SLAs, there's a couple of ways that you can use them, and I'm just going to show you really quickly here. If I come over to my dashboards, I made a little test dashboard for this class just to show you that with those SLAs, once you have those SLAs selected, you can now come in here and you can set up things. Again, I've got a 24-hour period look at a couple of specific things, not that it would matter to you, but again, maybe I logged into Workspace. I didn't run this today. You can see it says no data. I didn't run this today, no data. I've got another control over here, which is an SLA list, and I can actually list out anything that I'm tracking in the SLAs, and you can see it's just like a little bar, which is going to say how many times I've hit the mark. This one I set to fail. This one will never open in the time I gave it. So you can see it says 0. These other ones are the exact opposite. They open all the time faster than what my threshold is, so it's 100%. And these other ones have no data. But again, just another idea of what you can do with the SLAs as far as keeping track of what's going on. I wanted to open up Performance Lab too. In Performance Lab, you've got this SLA running average, okay? And again, depending on what you have defined here for your SLAs to track, they don't have to be alert enabled, right? We're gathering the statistics for them regardless. But what you'll see is you'll see them all in here, and I can pick a period of time. Now, I have not run these for very long, so I don't know what I'm going to see here. But if I go ahead and run some kind of a running average for, say, the Workspace login, you could see 100% of the time my daily average has been hit. If this was any different, if this peaked down, you know, so that daily average was not met, that's what I'll see with this SLA running average, is that daily average was not set. So maybe it dipped down to 80% one day, and you would see the little dip in the graph here. But again, this is a chart that you can create. You can save this and run it as a report if you want and get that delivered based on whatever you want, really. You can add anything in there. And if you're not using an SLA or not interested in it, it's just as easy. Put a check mark next to it, hit the delete, and that'll just pull your SLAs out of there. And that really, in a nutshell, is setting up SLAs and ways to use them. These are very, you know, non-specific to EPM. They're more specific to your own environment. So I would highly suggest, as you're doing these things and as you're setting up your SLAs, that you come over to the activity analysis screen, open up user activity, and you could see from here very quickly the duration of some of these things, right? I know that these forms take, you know, maybe that's 3 seconds. This one's 9 seconds. And I can intelligently set up a threshold here so that I understand, okay, most of the time I know this form's going to run here. But again, if this form takes 20 seconds or 30 seconds to open, you know, maybe I want to know about it. So that's really the rationale behind the SLAs and setting them up and tracking them. So that being said, the next session that I am going to run is going to be on the unified activity filter. We're going to talk about what it is, how it works, and where all the data gets stored. And that ties into the SLAs a little bit here because, again, anything that we capture in user activity is going to be available for SLAs. As always, guys, I really appreciate you attending. Any questions and feedback, we definitely want to hear from you. You can send email to me, cchikowski@accelatis.com, or go right to the support mailbox, which is just support@accelatis.com. And thank you very much for attending. Everybody have a great, great day.